Hello, and welcome to Journal of a High-Masking Autistic, Behind the Behavior, the podcast where we unpack the little quirks that make us human. I'm your host, Daniel Simon. We all have them, those small, almost invisible habits we've crafted over a lifetime, often as solutions to problems no one else even knew we had. There are personal operating systems running quietly in the background. And most of the time, they work. Until they don't. Today, we're diving deep into a story about one of the most fundamental yet complex human social rituals, eye contact. It's something most people never think twice about, but for some of us, it became a puzzle to be solved, a code to be cracked. This is the story of how I learned to perform normality, and how that performance eventually crumbled when faced with the one thing that demands complete authenticity: love. Section 1. The Fog. My early school years are mostly a blur, existing in a kind of low-grade fog. I was physically present, but mentally I was galaxies away. I became a master of strategic invisibility. The back of the classroom was my throne. I cultivated the art of the perfectly timed doze. Just as the teacher turned to write on the board, my eyes would flutter shut for precisely 10 seconds. The library wasn't a place of learning for me. It was a sanctuary, a labyrinth of tall shelves where I could disappear completely, tracing the patterns in the industrial carpet with my shoe. And the lessons were like a distant radio station playing through a bad signal. I heard the sounds, the rise and fall of the teacher's voice, but the meaning rarely landed. I was tuning out, not out of disrespect, but out of a sheer, overwhelming inability to connect the words to any tangible reality that mattered to me. It was a passive existence. I didn't question my place in the world because I didn't feel I had one to begin with. I was just there. Section 2. The Jolt. That all changed in a single jarring moment. Mrs. Henderson's history class. The air was thick with chalk dust and the scent of old books. I was, as usual, miles away, probably mentally designing a spaceship or replaying a movie scene in my head. "Daniel," she cut through my daydream like a shard of glass. I flinched. The entire class went quiet. "Look at me when I'm speaking to you." Wait, what? The internal monologue was pure panic. This was a direct confrontation, a demand for a type of engagement I had no blueprint for. So I tried. I dragged my gaze from the safety of my desk and forced myself to meet her eyes. They were brown, I remember, and expectant. And in that moment, something bizarre happened. It was like a system overload. The visual input of her face, the pressure of her stare, it short-circuited my auditory processing. I saw her lips moving, I registered the sound waves, but my brain could not translate them into language. It was all just noise. The harder I tried to focus, the more the words dissolved. So I did the only thing I could. I nodded. A slow, deliberate nod, hopefully convincing. I paired it with what I hoped was a thoughtful expression. And then, a miracle. She gave a slight, satisfied nod of her own and continued with the lesson. It worked. I had successfully navigated the crisis, but I was left shaken. Section 3. The Awakening and the Algorithm. That moment haunted me for weeks. I'd lie in bed at night, replaying it in an endless, anxious loop. What if I had gotten it wrong? What if my nod was at the wrong time? What did her look mean? It was then I stumbled upon the concept in a psychology magazine, the frequency illusion. You know that thing where you learn a new word and then suddenly see it everywhere? That's exactly what happened, but with eye contact. It was like someone had given me a new set of glasses. Suddenly, I saw it everywhere, in conversations in the hallway, in TV shows, and my parents talking at the dinner table. I saw the rhythm of it, the dance. A look held for a few seconds, a glance away, a reconnection. I saw how people used it to show interest, to assert dominance, to flirt. It was a whole secret language happening right in front of me, and I had been illiterate. I realized I needed a manual. I couldn't rely on instinct, so I had to rely on strategy. I became a social scientist, and the world was my lab. I developed what I called the algorithm. The goal wasn't to be genuine. The goal was to be convincing. The best method I devised was a multi-step process. Step 1, initiate contact. Hold for a count of 2 Mississippis. That's long enough to show you're engaged, but not long enough to be intense. Step 2, a slight soft smile. This signals friendliness and disarms any potential tension. Step 3, the thoughtful break. Look away, preferably down or to the side, as if you're pondering their profound words. This is also when you actually listen, because you're not being fried by the visual input. Step 4, the return glance. Reconnect for another 1 Mississippi, maybe with a slight nod to show understanding. I practiced in the mirror, I tested it on cashiers and classmates. I mixed and matched these behaviors to appear natural, to raise 0 red flags. It was exhausting, this constant mental calculation, this running of social software in the background. But over the years, I refined it. I became a master of the performance. I could pass. Section 4. The cracks in the foundation. And then came Sarah. Dating was, in a way, easier. Dates are performances for everyone, right? You're on your best behavior. My algorithm was my best behavior. It worked, flawlessly. She thought I was a good listener, which was the ultimate irony. I wasn't listening better. I was just managing the input more effectively. We got married. It was the happiest day of my life. But marriage, a real deep partnership, is the kryptonite to any performance. You can't perform 24/7. The masks start to slip. The first time she called me out on it, we were having a serious conversation about our future. I was running the algorithm perfectly. Nod, smile, look away, glance back. And she just stopped. Her face fell. "Why won't you ever really look at me?" she asked, her voice quiet and hurt. "It feels like you're not really here, like you're just waiting for your turn to talk, or like I'm boring you." It was a gut punch. My carefully constructed system, my life's work, was being interpreted as disinterest, as a personal rejection. I tried to explain. "No, it's the opposite. When I look too long, I can't hear you. This is how I listen." But it sounded like a weak excuse, even to me. The problem wasn't in public anymore. The problem was in the most intimate space of my life. When you're someone's partner, their person, they don't want a perfectly executed social algorithm. They want your presence, your messy, unscripted, fully engaged presence. My lack of sustained eye contact, something that had been a minor social obstacle for years, was now being felt as a wall in my own marriage. It was no longer a personal puzzle. It was a shared problem, and I had no idea how to fix it. And that's where we'll leave it for today. The moment the performance stops being good enough, the moment you realize that the very coping mechanism that helped you navigate the world is now isolating you from the person you love most. On our next episode, we'll explore what happened next, the difficult conversations, the search for understanding, and the slow, challenging process of building a new kind of connection, one that doesn't rely on a script. Thank you for listening to Behind the Behavior. If this story resonated with you, we'd love to hear from you. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.